It's Thursday and you're tuned into Jasiri, where bold meets necessary. Today marks 2 years since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took office, riding on the promise of renewed hope. But after 24 months of subsidy removal, economic reform, rising inflation, and political tension, the big question is, how are Nigerians really feeling? Has hope been restored or just rebranded? From policy wins to public pain, we are unpacking Tinubu's performance, the people's reality, and what the road ahead might look like. This is your report card moment, and no one's holding the pen but you. But first, leadership is not about policies, it's about people. And today marks 2 years since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office as Nigeria's president. 2 years of promises, 2 years of decisions that have touched every corner of our nation, from fuel subsidy to economic reforms, security strategies, and social welfare programs. But behind every headline, there's a human story. So we went to the street to hear directly from Nigerians. We asked them important questions like, how has life been under this administration? How has their life improved or worsened? Or even worse, has it stayed the same? But if they have the opportunity to speak to the president, what would their message be? Here, we went to the street.
The past 2 years, President Tinubu has been in power, has been hell and hearty. Why I say so is that we thought him coming to power is going to change the narrative.
Transport fares, foodstuffs, many things, everything has changed. We are really suffering, we are not enjoying at all.
The 2 years of Tinubu government has been, in my definition, it's been shambolic. It has been a disaster, not to me alone, but to Nigerians.
We all know that things are not the same way that they were. Everybody, except you are not in Nigeria, you will know that things are not the way they used to be.
It's been so bad. I'm not complaining too much because I can still trudge on, but it's not the same.
This past 2 years, I'd say that things has been a bit difficult financially, I must say, and I think the economy has grown worse.
The first subsidy removal was a no-no thing because it was not planned for.
That is the main thing that affects everything in this economy.
Immobility perpetuates poverty. People are not being able to move all about because of the cost of transport.
Even because of the transportation now, I could not go out like before. Like today now, I came to do some things in the bank. That's why I came. And from this place to my area, my go-come is 4,000 naira. So now tell me coming every day outside.
Things have been terrible for people, and I don't know, we are just managing, but we just need solution to it.
Right now, Nigerians are bleeding. People are suffering.
Security has become worse, even to the extent of even affecting my own town, my own village. I am from Anambra State. My governor is talking about election now. Meanwhile, my local government, which is Ihala local government, is under siege. So what has gone wrong with the president has gone wrong with the governors too.
If I had the opportunity to talk to President Tinubu, the first thing I would tell him is to make food affordable. If you go to any viable nations in the world, you found out that the commonest thing in all those nations are food.
It should take some time to travel to rural areas in every state of the country to see what people are going through.
He's a father. I think when a child came to his father and cried for hungry, I think the father, that is the first thing he's supposed to be thinking of.
Should please reduce the transport, everything. People are suffering.
What I can tell the president is that he should move beyond the glass, he should come out of the glass door. They have covered him. He doesn't know what is going on.
We need food because people are dying. Children are dying, adults are dying. So if you can bring the food down, as in bring the price of the food down.
If you are a government, you should make your people happy. If your people are happy with you, then you can start thinking of, okay, maybe you want to come back the second time or third time or whatever.
The people had a word or two to say. Ladies, how's the last 2 years been?
We're on TV.
Yes, now, so you can comport yourself and act and behave mature. How have the 2 last years been? Are you giving me silence, really?
So, well, somebody say it's been hale and hearty. I do not understand, and I don't think a lot of Nigerians can relate
I see what you did there.
to that statement, right? Because it really has been. We have gone backer than we ever were. Back to be honest, yes. You know when you think you can't go back, you go backer than that. So I feel like this is a time where a lot of people need to just be honest with themselves, right? We're done playing politics. We're done. That 5K they're giving you to speak right about the government, 20K is no longer working. It doesn't go any.
Can it take you back home after you do this?
Exactly. So I think that we just need to be honest with ourselves. And the good thing, well, it's not a good situation, but the good thing about the situation is that everybody can see it, right? We can no longer mask it. Now it's just people pretending to be oblivious of what's happening, but everybody can see how dire the situation is. So it's not been hale and hearty.
Lois, I really do not know what to say because from his inauguration in 2 years ago, from what he said, the policies he has put in place, and how it has affected the people. I honestly think there's a disconnect between governance and the people. You're doing things objectively, but on the street, there's not enough sensitization to say this is how it will benefit you, this is how it's affecting you, this is this. And so I don't think enough Nigerians understand what is going on. I think that's an issue.
Wait, I don't. What do you mean they don't understand what is going on?
Okay, so they said you've taken out a subsidy removal. Most Nigerians don't know they were paying subsidy and what the money is being used for.
Yeah.
Most Nigerians cannot really account for the subsidy removal and how much you've saved, where it's going. So the government comes and say, oh, we've offloaded 10 billion of our debts. What debts?
Yeah.
So most Nigerians, and there was a report
So
that
that's
came
why
out.
you hear people say that the government doesn't carry us along.
Yes. So most Nigerians come out and say there was a report that said every Nigerian is owing.
I think was it 200,000. So let me pay my own now. Let's be done with this charade.
Yeah. So I think there's a disconnect somewhere.
I understand when you say that Nigerians do not understand, but unfortunately they feel the impact. They don't know what's happening, but everybody's feeling the impact.
Yes. There's not enough sensitization being done with the people, and there is not enough communication, whether directly by the president or people
Or
that
his
do the
representatives.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Auntie, Mama Market. I think now.
Cameron is in the market like 3 times a week.
Listen, I was, we're talking about Yanoba.
Yeah.
Like, I should go to Yanoba. It's just I'm busy. That's why. The common denomination in everything that people on the streets are talking about is hunger, is food. And seeing that is a problem. If your tummy is empty, you can't think, you can't function, you can't. So if the people are not seeing or having enough to eat, what else? That is the most basic of everything. If there's not enough food, how are we expected to thrive? Nigerians, we always say, oh, we are strong, we are very, we adapt easily. Yeah. But that is, as much as it's a blessing to us, it's also a curse to us, because then we just accept everything that's going on and say it is well. And I think that's what the government has it has that blanket over Nigerians, and it just throws it on us and just, and everybody just keeps going and saying it is well. It is not well, and you're not wrong. A lot of Nigerians don't know what's happening with the economic policies, with governance, with listen, the health sector is deficient. The transport sector is deficient. Education is an eyesore. Nothing seems to be working in terms of the major sectors of the economy. The drivers of the economy are not working. What's going on? So I feel as if the president, in as much as everybody knows that he has this, if anybody was, I remember before the elections, I was in a friend of mine's house, and we had people visit, and we were engaged in this debate. If anyone's going to put Nigeria on the right path, it's President Tinubu. When he comes in, because he has such macroeconomic policies, and everybody, in that space at that time, people were hopeful. But now it seems like there's a disconnect, and the government doesn't seem to care. When I say government, guys, I understand it. Government is you and I. They don't seem to care. The masses are looking for just coping mechanisms. The people in government are just looking for ways to just be as invisible as possible in perpetrating what they're perpetrating and then going. Having at the back of their minds that Nigerians will adapt and last we'll go there all right.
And is that we go there all right? But the thing is, we are not all right.
No, we are not.
I'm not all right. I'm not all right when we have to go to the markets. I'm not all right when I have to step into the grocery store. I'm not all right. This past weekend.
Markets. I went to the markets last weekend. You know how you just keep buying. They bought me 10k meat. I'm telling you, Lolo understands this thing. 10k meat was looking like a 3,500 naira meat in the pot. I called my customer, please just give me 8k meat, Joy. See, my son was just ordering, add more, add dry fish,
to make it, give it life.
Listen, I had spent 105,000 naira
on meat,
on food, on those little things like meat, more dry fish. You understand? Periwinkle plus ugu leaf plus afa, all those things to make food. So you ask yourself, what are we talking about? When she sent me the bill, I was like, wow, 105,000 naira.
I remember the day I had to send my nanny back to the market twice. We were trying to make a 4-year-old. Every time she would do the effort, put in hot water, what's this? And she go back and buy. It just became ridiculous. And these are the basics. Cordy wasn't feeling well over the weekend, so we had to buy one of the because I'm very picky about what I use for her when she has fever, right?
Yeah.
The last time we bought it was 7,000 something. Please. My nanny wants to go and check 20-something thousand. I said, Auntie, I will pray over you. Because I don't plan for it. I eventually went to go and get some. It's just a small bottle like this, and that's me. And I'm thinking, what are people doing? Malaria, the typhoid issues, the fever issues, the food issues, come back to it. Even just in the hospitals. To go to, we tell everybody now, before you go to the hospital, pray. And try to do everything you can to avoid going to the hospital because once enough doctors and nurses have left the country. What is left and who is left and the system around which is left, you're like, okay, what happens when I go? How many people, how does the japa, how does the cost in food and medicine, how does that affect my...
So people become little governments on their own. I tell the kids, you're going to buy something, I even tell people around me, please check the expiry date. Expiry date is key. You just go there and you buy, there's supplements that we buy now. It's in the 20-somethings, 30,000.
Does that food be your supplements at this point?
Exactly. So by the time you're doing supplements and you're doing food itself, guys, you're like a candle burning on both sides.
And I don't think there's been enough done. I had one of our producers look at the promises that the president made in regards to food and security and things like that when he was coming in. And it's just really interesting to find out that 2 years ago, when President Tinubu was coming in, he said something about agriculture. He said that rural incomes will be secured by commodity exchange boards guaranteeing minimal prices for certain crops and animal products. A nationwide program for storage and other facilities to reduce spoilage and waste will be undertaken. We're 2 years in. Have we seen this?
No.
Have we seen a lot of the things that the president promised in his inaugural speech? But that's up next for a conversation because we're going to look at President Bola Tinubu's first 2 years in office. I said first 2 years. There's a reason why. As his administration hits the halfway mark, Jide Johnson, public affairs analyst, joins us after the break. Stay with us. Subsidy is gone. These are the words many Nigerians remember hearing 2 years ago today, and how those 4 words changed the economy and the country around them. It's been 2 years since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu stepped into Nigeria's highest office with the promise of renewed hope. 2 years since the fuel subsidy was removed, the naira was floated, and tough economic reforms were introduced, all in the name of long-term growth. But for many Nigerians, the hope hasn't felt renewed. It's felt distant. Food prices skyrocketed, inflation is squeezing the middle class, security challenges persist across regions, and the daily cost of living has turned survival into strategy. So today on Jasiri, we're not looking at press briefings or political speeches, we're digging into the lived reality of Nigerians. What has Tinubu actually achieved in these 2 years? What has worsened? And where do we go from here? Joining us on the Jasiri table is political analyst and New Central contributor Jide Johnson. Jide, welcome to Jasiri. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be with you on this wonderful day in the midst of 4 wonderful, amazing
We're making the day beautiful for you, right?
Exactly. You can see flank on both sides, beautiful, amazing, intelligent ladies. Check out to our viewers all over the world.
Thank you so much.
Not laughing anymore now.
Quick one. Do you lecture by any chance?
Of course.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you just have that.
It looks like a lecture.
Yeah, you have that air. Okay, Tula, I didn't digress. I think the best place.
Yet.
You already did.
No, oh, come on.
Captain, focus.
Okay, let's start with fuel subsidy. I think that's a perfect place to start. So we are 2 years in, and the inaugural speech the president promised us was that we're going to be saving by removing fuel subsidy. I'm going to quote what he says. He said, and fuel, it would be channeled into better, that's the money saved would be channeled into better investment in public infrastructure, education, healthcare, and jobs that will materially improve the lives of millions. All right, so Jide, do we know how much has been saved by fuel subsidy removal, and how has it impacted the everyday Nigerian?
First and foremost, there are no consequences for bad behavior in Nigeria. The subsidy regime was abused, no doubt. People enriched themselves from that regime, and it is you and I that are paying the price for the corruption of the past. What did government do to prosecute those that corrupted that regime that is meant to be enjoyed by every Nigerian?
But this person is going to jail now, the son of the former PDP chairman.
Government told us to close that page, and that every Nigerian, the poor, will bear the brunt of the benefits that the rich gain from. So you could see that you and I are feeling the effect. Know that Nigeria is a monopoly economy. All we do is dependent on oil. Energy is what drives our economy, is what powers our economy. In everything we do is our major power supply. Even we don't even have electricity from national grid. So it has affected you and I. It has led to increase in cost of goods and services. It has increased cost of living, and when there's cost of living is rising, definitely will contribute to inflation. And inflation, when there's high inflation, we've had hyperinflation, the standard of living will drop. So you see that virtually, for those of us and for you ladies that are appearing on screen regularly, people usually have this image about you that you are rich, you are extremely well. I can imagine the number of call, text messages you receive from people for assistance from family, friends, and the rest of it. So that's an indication of what is really happening in the society. If you look at the number of text messages, calls, and save my soul that you have received in the last 2 years compared to what you have received in the past, and then you know that the reality on the ground is that the removal of fuel subsidy, though, is a needed policy, but the implementation is what should be used to support the need. It was a knee-jerk approach, but it should have been a systematic, gradual process with all policies to take care of the short effect of what it will create. So everybody's feeling it. I'm feeling it. You are feeling it. You are driving cars. You know what it means to maintain your car. In the last 2 years, you know what you used to fuel your tank. You know what you used to service your car in the last, and I'm not too sure that a lot of Nigerians have bought new cars. They are just maintaining.
New cars coming into the country have gone down. Yeah.
And I kind of like that you said it was needed, because a lot of people have been conflicted as to whether or not there was a need to remove the subsidy. In fact, many people would say, why would he remove the subsidy? But over the years, we've heard different administrations come and say that it is necessary to remove the subsidy. So you have talked about, because I was going to ask what other approach could have made it easier and convenient for people. So you talked about the fact that it was a knee-jerk reaction and it could have been more systemic. But I want, for the purpose of those who do not necessarily understand, why is it necessary to remove the subsidy, especially in this time?
Yeah, because one, there was no transparency. You asked me a question earlier about where is the money. Yeah. Now, there's no transparency with respect to what are we paying in terms of subsidy, what government is making in terms of revenue generation from NNPC. There's no transparency to that effect. To that effect, NNPC is even a super agency bigger than other institutions of the state because they are not held accountable either by the National Assembly or even the president. So look, the subsidy regime was helping some people, the few rich who were benefiting from it without, because there's no accurate figure with respect to what we are subsidizing, but on a yearly basis we are allocating money for fuel subsidy in the budget. So one of the ways in which you deal with corruption is to reduce fraud and wastages. And I agree with the government that there is a need for us to reduce fraud and wastages. However, the second part of it is transparency. Now, what we require from the government from 2 years ago to now is to tell us what is it that you have made from the removal. This is what we have saved from removal of fuel subsidy. This is where we have directed the resources. Because on one hand, government is removing fuel subsidy and trying to save money. On the other hand, government is looking for loan. How do you reconcile that? So what the corresponding policy against subsidy removal is transparency. Opening the books for everybody to know what Nigerians, so that Nigerians will know the sacrifices they are making and they can have hope that in the future things will get better. But everything in that sector is still shrouded in secrecy. Do you know how the oil and gas sector, the petroleum sector, do you know how it operates? Even the NNPC refinery in Port Harcourt has already shut down. So you hear something, we take 2-3 steps forward and then we take 10 steps backward. And sometimes you have conflicting reports from different agencies of government concerning one agency of government.
So speaking of transparency, do you think the government has communicated its economic agenda to the people? Do you think Nigerians fully understand where the government is going and how this money is being saved?
You see, there's one thing about Aso Rock. I think when the president gets to Aso Rock, there seems to be, a cocoon that is created around them that takes them away from far reality, and they have there's this siege mentality, which makes them not to be accessible and open to the citizens. Now, this government is 2 years. Can you imagine? What we got from the president was a statement released by his press secretary.
Yes.
No, that's what we deserve as shareholders. Can you imagine at the annual general meeting, and then the board of directors and everybody did not come for the annual general meeting, and then what they give to you is press statement.
Well, employers actually.
It tells you the kind of attitude they have and respect they have. It's just a statement. The statement was released, and then we are discussing the statement. So a statement that Nigerians deserve after 2 years of entrusting you with the mandate of ruling over them. That's one. Two, in the sense that each of the ministers ought to be given an account. I think probably there is an unwritten rule that says ministers shouldn't talk to the media.
Quarterly ministerial press briefing.
There's a difference between press briefing and press conferences. You are giving a brief. How many questions are you taking a brief? Are you getting how many questions are you taking? Are you taking in a brief? You just give them the brief, you walk out. You take 1 or 2 comments and then you walk out. There's a difference between press statement, press briefing, and press conference. So if it's a conference, you take inputs. It's a conference. It involves both the people that are coming from the government side. It also involves people that are covering the event. Right. So you'll have expected that on this second year anniversary, each of the ministers will be given a scorecard. So I think one of the problems successive administration, particularly the APC administration, has had since Buhari, is their inability to communicate with an average Nigerian in language that an average Nigerian can understand. That the language that they speak, they use economic jargons, and they use speculative languages to communicate with Nigeria. An average man on the street wants to know what it would cost for me to buy bread. What would it cost for me to send my child to school? What it will cost? What 13% to GDP, 13% tax from 10% to 30%. An average person on the street does not have does not have an understanding of. He wants to know what would it cost for me to send my child to school? What would it cost for me to send my children to the hospital? What would it cost me to pay for my accommodation, to take care of the health care of my children? So those are the basics. The ability. Now, you know the interesting thing. The political class know how to connect with the people during election.
Yes.
It is during governance that they find it so hard to connect with the people. And I say this, look, let them show us the image of the president appearing before an event. Compare the image of the president with security agencies surrounding him as president, and compare that image with him as a presidential candidate seeking the people's vote. Or the governor. There's a cocoon that is created around them, which gives them a false sense of security and detachment from the reality of what is happening. How often does the president even leave Aso Rock?
And I remember when he was campaigning and the whole issue around the Naira situation, the new notes, the redesigned notes of Emefiele, and that very, I guess I would say, very powerful statement he made. Let the poor breathe. And now as president, have the poor breathed in Nigeria? Yes. Jide, let me ask you this. Let's lay this foundation. So during the 2025 spring meetings in April, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank painted a gloomy picture of Nigeria's economic outlook in the short to medium term. Among the highlights was the downgrading of the country's economic growth forecast, with an indication that the country's economic policy reforms are largely ineffective in addressing inclusive growth. The institutions ended with a declaration that poverty rates in the country would increase by 3.6 percentage points by 2027. Now, it's already estimated that around 54% of Nigerians, that's more than half the population, are now living in poverty. And it shouldn't be so. Is this administration doing enough with the promises that were used in the campaign and the promises that were used and said in the inaugural speech 2 years in?
One of the 5 cardinal programs of the president in his Renewal agenda is to lift people out of poverty. Yeah, it's 5. He stated even in his speech today that the 5th element, because the way you measure an administration is to use the benchmark they've set for themselves as part of the cardinal programs they are going to do, so that you are objective, you are unbiased, and you are neutral, you are central, like New Central. You are not taking any side. What it is. So, have the government succeeded in lifting people out of poverty? No. The various economic policies that have been put in place have sent shockwaves across the board. It has given more money to the government, and it has taken more money away from the pocket of the people. 1, the removal of fuel subsidy took more money away from your pocket. 2, the removal of electricity subsidy took more money away from my pocket and your pocket. 3, the removal of education subsidy and introduction of student loan took more money from my pocket and your pocket. And the various multiple taxes that we have in place, we are waiting for the tax reform bill, takes more money from your pocket and my pocket. So taxation, multiple taxation does not drive the economy. It stifles the economy. It takes money away from the people. And we hope, because the government keeps talking about reform, we hope that by the time their tax reform bill is implemented and all of it, we have a lot of credits, we have a lot of money, and a lot of people will be lifted out of poverty. But the reality on ground, Nigerians are poor, Mr. President. Nigerians are going through. It's only the political class that are enjoying. Those that are in National Assembly, the revenue for the local government has increased. The revenue for the state government has increased. The revenue for the federal government has increased. But the disposable income of the Nigerian and their take-home income has reduced drastically. That is the truth.
Let's go for a quick break. There's more conversation. We touch on security. And of course, this is just the halfway mark into the Tinubu administration. What does the next 2 years hold? Stay with us.
All right, security remains high on the agenda for Nigerians. While many struggle to feed, many are also struggling to stay safe, as insecurity in its various forms seem to have taken roots across the nation. Jide Johnson, political analyst, is still here with us as we look at the last the first 2 years of the Tinubu administration. So, Jide, so 2 years in, how would you assess Tinubu's administration's handling of national security? I mean, let's take a look at the national killings, the kidnappings, and the attacks. Have they reduced in any way?
Not in any form. To the best of my understanding, I can ask you this question: can you travel to any part of Nigeria, closing your eyes? If you want to travel, you have a second thought on when to leave. I mean, road travels now. When to leave, what time to apply, which part of the road. I love traveling. In fact, one of my favorite pastime is driving. I love driving, so I've driven to many parts. But you always have this at the back of your mind. This journey I'm embarking upon, am I going to come back home safely? And then, and so, a lot of family have been left to self-help with respect to having to deal with the issues of kidnapping and the rest of it. And the bottom line is simple: there are no consequences for bad behavior. How many service chiefs have we fired? How many? Year in, year out, we keep budgeting money for security. Security takes the largest chunk of our annual budget, and yet the security issue has not improved. And the first responsibility of government is to protect the territorial integrity of the nation, one, and the lives and property of its citizenry, two. And then that's, can we say that our territorial integrity has been protected? We have encroachment from herdsmen who we claim are not from Nigeria, that migrated from the Sahel down into Nigeria. How did they penetrate our borders? What is the security of our borders? And two, people cannot even go to their respective farm to farm because we still have these clashes between herders and farmers, and it's a recurrent phenomenon. For me, I've said it, the president should appoint security chief and give them 6 months and give them benchmark. If you don't achieve this, you'll be fired. But you know, my thinking, my opinion, majority of the security, those that are in charge of the security architecture, they become more political than dealing with security issues. They are much more concerned about the election or re-election of the president than they are much more concerned about doing the basic responsibility which they are given to protect the territorial integrity of the nation and the properties and life of an average Nigerian. And it falls down to what some people have called for. Is there the need for community policing? Is there need, but there's one intervention which I think that by next year we will look at it, which is the approval by the president for forest guards. We used to have forest guards, and with that, we'll see that the implication of that. I think that's a step in the right direction to address some, to still use the non-conventional security forces like the police, the army, and the rest of it, but to still use some of those things we have in the 60s, some things that work. Those forest guards we need to so let's see the implication of that in dealing with this issue. And we also allow this Amotekun and all of these
sort of
regional security apparatus that we have to see the implication of it.
But it's interesting to me because the issue of community policing, I remember on radio when they put together a committee. Was it not headed by either Nasir Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, to look at issues around community policing and how the APC was going to implement it? It became such a large part of the campaigning for them, and then it just died.
Yeah, you know, we have a lot of. We have, if you are looking for the mortuary of non-implemented policy, or the burial ground of non-implemented is Nigeria. And you know, Dr. Miles Morone of blessed memory said the mortuary is the place, the burial ground is the place that you have a lot of unfulfilled dreams, unwritten books, unimplemented policy. They are different. There is no policy option you are thinking of concerning bringing about a turnaround of our country that we don't have. But the bottom line is the implementation. There are forces that stops government from implementing this. And then
what forces? Who Who is a force greater than government? Who should be a force greater than stop it. Who should be a force greater than government? Who should be a force greater than the president?
When you get to government,
you meet the forces.
You understand those forces.
No,
In his speech today,
exactly.
Or his statement, sorry, not speech.
Okay.
Go ahead. In his statement.
Yes, in his statement today, the president gave kudos to the security agencies and acknowledged that there are new security challenges that the country has reported, some successes there. He said that despite the bump in the cost of living, we have made undeniable progress. He also noted that inflation has begun to ease, with prices of food and other staples declining. Wow. Are the people not seeing or experiencing these good things, or where are these progress that the president is claiming?
Now, in one breath, the president was talking about security.
Yes.
In another breath, he was talking about food prices and the rest.
Yes.
And I read the speech. I went through the statement, and I see incoherence in terms of the linkages, the paragraphs and the policies thrust off. It was what we call, and what my professor in Unilag, Professor Repackaging, we call it mumbo jumbo. Mumbo jumbo, pick here, and we're placed together. For me, it tells you about the coordination of this administration in terms of the thought processes that guides the cabinet of the president, the kitchen cabinet of the president. How many times have we heard from the Minister of Finance and the coordinating Minister of the Economy concerning? How many times have we heard from the Minister of Agriculture? If I ask you, did they even have presence? Do they, with the exception of the Minister of FCT, with the exception of Minister of Interior, which other minister have that presence of mind in the public sphere with respect to how this administration goes about what they do? So, with the exception of FCT minister, that's about the person that has the presence of mind. So, the issue of rice, and that the price of rice has dropped, as the prices of groceries dropped, the price of milk, sugar, and all of that, the basic groceries, apart from the staple food. Are you getting my point? The president is talking about staple food. But what about other groceries like milk, sugar, and the rest of the beverages and are you with me? So the bottom line is, we don't know who is feeding the president with information. And I'm challenging the president, Mr. President, you need to leave us to rock and do a tour of Nigeria.
That's what one of the respondents said, yes.
You need to do a tour of Nigeria. And when you do that tour, let there be a town hall. Let there be a town hall whereby average Nigerians, not program town hall, you have access to ask you, not party town hall. We have access, you get feedback, because governance is about the rule and the rulers. There must be an exchange of ideas. There must be an interface. And now that interface is lacking. The president leaves Asuro, goes to National Assembly, meet his party members, we meet within his party members, and every one of them, because they look up to him, they'll be saying, Rankadede, Mr. President, you are the best. And they're not singing. No, that's a desecration of the sanctity of what we call our national pride, national emblem. What we call our nation is the desecration, whether they like it or not. It is history that places people where they belong. History will place them wherever they belong in the future. For those of them in the National Assembly that engage in that charlatan, sycophantic behavior, history will place them wherever they belong. Why would you be singing? Another thing we see is governors, president using the insignia of their party in public property. In property that belongs to you and I. You are not the president of APC. You are the president of Federal Republic of Nigeria. You are not the governor of PDP. You are the president. So in your office, there shouldn't be, if you are putting the flag of PDP in your office as the governor for your state, For example, you should put the flag of all other parties. If you are putting the flag of APC as the President of Federal Republic in your office, you put the flag of all the parties. Otherwise, it should be the Nigerian flag, which is our own national symbol. It's desecration of public institution, and that has characterized this republic. And it was not like that at the beginning of this democratic experience, and that's why you are seeing the drift towards one party state, and that's why you are seeing less than 2 years to the administration, they've already endorsed the president for second term.
Okay. We need to go on a break, but in the context of this conversation, we have to ask, just think about it before we go, is it all bad? Is there nothing, or are there things that you can point to under the Tinubu administration that are implementation of reforms that will lead to progress in the future? That yes, there might be short-term pain, but medium-term goals in progress and long-term advantageous situations. We'll pick that up when we come back. Stay with us. 2 years into President Bola Tinubu's administration, it seems governance is taking a backseat to politicking. That's how you pronounce it. But there are 2 more years left in the administration's tenure, and that means 2 more years to make things better for Nigerians. Now, Jide, before the break, I asked, can we point to good things? Are there reforms? Is there any form of progress under this administration in the past 2 years before we now look at the 2 years ahead of us, where it seems that everyone is already now focused on the elections of 2027 and governance has taken a back seat?
Well, let's talk from the area of what is promised from the tax reform with respect to zero VAT on education, on transportation, on rent, on health care, and the rest of it. If we have that implemented, it takes a lot of burden off you and I. It takes a lot of burden off the people living below the poverty line, and it gives a lot of people tax credit, and which goes into their disposable income, which will help an average Nigerian in terms of that aspect. The other aspect which I spoke about earlier is the removal of subsidy. We actually needed to reduce that waste and fraud in government, and that aspect is very, very important for us to. We could see that what government could not do, a private investor is doing, and is doing effectively, which gives encouragement to other investors, both local and international, to come in and invest in that particular sector, because it's the oil and gas sector that drives our economy. So what are the areas that I think the president needs to work on? One, it's the energy sector. We need to work on the power sector. Power drives the economy. We need to make investment.
They say they want to increase electricity tariff again.
Well, I don't think there's a need for an increase in that tariff. What we need to do is to make critical investment in that sector. Our national grid should not be collapsing. Our national grid, we should be able to have production of energy that should be able to supply all Nigerians. It's not everybody that have access to that. Once you get the power sector right, you drive your manufacturing sector. Your manufacturing sector produces goods and services for you, and it lessens your burden on importation of goods, which contributes to your GDP, and it strengthens your naira in the long run, which makes your local currency to be competitive in these areas. And then for government to reduce wastages and fraud in government. Look, this government is too overbloated. That's the reality. How many ministers do we have? How many ministers? I think most of us have thought that in this second anniversary, we are going to have a cabinet reshuffle, and we are going to have a reduction, streamlining government and the rest of it. There are wastages that are so much in terms of emolument that goes to political appointment and the rest of it. They are asking Nigerians to make sacrifices. Are they making sacrifices? We have made sacrifices. We are waiting on the government. Also,
thriving on our sacrifices.
We are waiting for government to make sacrifices. The health sector, the government has spoken about upgrading 5,000. Is in the statement. 5,500 primary health centers will be upgraded. They said they've reformed. They've revived 1,000 plus. So once government put in place all of these things, and we can see the actuality beyond the rhetorics, we can see the actuality of all of these things, I can assure you that we will make progress. There's one important thing the president said in his speech, which we have not focused on, in his statement. Thank you. In his statement, it was that there is this Motherland Festival.
Oh, I saw it. One very simple line, just a line.
The Motherland Festival that we are going to organize, Motherland Festival, that will bring Nigerians from diaspora. That's another white elephant project.
I mean, speaking of
that's another white elephant project. It's like doing First Tax 77 once again. Government should invest in agriculture. Government should invest in security. Government should invest in power. No. Let's just give them priority. Invest. Okay. What will bring about the turnaround in the next 2 years? Deal with energy, deal with security, and deal with agriculture. These three, let it be the three-pronged areas that government focus on. Government has focused too much attention on road infrastructure. Look at the amount of money we have spent on road infrastructure. And I say road infrastructure does not contribute anything to economic growth. It contributes to a certain extent, but you can't compare it with the power sector. Yeah. The power sector is the heartbeat of all other sectors. You get the informal sector, so it's the heartbeat. The agricultural sector is the sustenance.
We can feed ourselves.
Fix that and provide raw materials for the manufacturing. That's why you now come to infrastructure. So those are the areas that I'm advising the government to look at beyond the rhetoric.
2 years down.
If you can make it quick.
Yes, and the verdict is still unfolding. You know, for some, the reform has been bold, and for many, the burden has been really, really, really brutal. You know, food prices are still on the rise, and security remains shaky. But, you know, the promise of this renewed hope is loud, and the question is even louder now. You know, this is hope for who, and at what cost? I mean, we end Jasiri here today. Thank you for joining us, sir.
It's a pleasure to be with four wonderful ladies.
Yes. Stay tuned to us. Same time tomorrow morning. Bye for now.
Bye.